What was the craziest thing a teacher did when you were in school? 5th grade teacher's last day before retirement. Kid mouthed off to her and she backhanded him. Looks at the clock, just enough time to teach one more lesson. Cocking shotgun noise. ISCHKCHK got that reference. Guess she retired him too. About to end this man's whole career. Why are there no science teachers here? For shame. My science teacher, in succession, cleaned a workbench by lighting the gas coming out of the gas tap directly. The resulting fireball nearly set a student on fire. Launched a bin about 10 meters into the air with metal, sodium and water, froze the skin off 2 of his fingers with a rapid endothermic reaction, blinded himself with touch powder, and had to wear dark glasses to cover his burns for a week. Had a science teacher snap during mid-year exams. She had racks of scissors on her desk, let out horrible grunty scream, began pelting the entire class with scissors. Tutors from class next door came running in and had to wrestle teach out of class. Got the rest of the day off. Never saw her again. Dude, you really should have replied to Op directly. This is a contender to end the thread. Tutors hate each. Cut it out. She called us by numbers, not our names. Were you in a prison? I'm not a number. I'm a free man. I'm going to assume that one didn't have a lot of friends. He was actually the weirdest kid in the class and very popular. Might actually have been the #1 most looked at kid. He wasn't even all that attractive either. He just really stood out. 2 wasn't better by much. 2 can be as bad as 1. Took the train and left the rest of the class behind during a school trip abroad. Maybe he was actually a time traveler that was given wrong information about when the place you guys were at was gonna blow up or have a shooting or something, thinking the dangerous event would happen years sooner than it actually would have. Had to quietly take the train when the time came near to avoid getting killed, while also making sure to not alter events which would destroy the current timeline by not influencing changing the behavior of anyone else that wasn't a time traveler and was actually existing in that timeline. I totally understand and empathize with that teacher. I don't know, such actions strike me as beyond the pale. Like, the op didn't specify whether or not any of the students spoke any local languages, had any money or ID on them, or if they were high school seniors, or 6th graders, or what. A 6th grade sub sent me to the hall for bothering the class. I just dropped my apple. There was a kid standing on a desk. Last year my friend got sent to the office because he had accidentally stepped on a raspberry. He got accused of vandalism. That's a really funny mental image. I was sent to the hall for getting hit in the eye by my friend's jacket sleeve. Probably thought you would obey, while they already knew the kid on the desk wasn't going to. I was put in ice in school suspension in grade 4 because a sub wrote me up for disruption of class. The only words I said all class were, "Hey, what color is this?" Because I'm in fact colorblind, and she forced us to do color by number. Commit suicide in his classroom after school hours. Well, nice of him to wait until class was dismissed. True. He didn't do it in the teacher's room though. How did he commit suicide? Took pills sitting behind his desk. I think my BO teacher did this. I was his top student. I don't know why, because I was average in every other class. His style just gelled well with me. His kid was sick and would die young, and his wife was supposedly cheating on him. He once said that if he could restart his life he would want to work for National Geographic and film animals. I remembered it for some reason. Sent me to the office because I said "Hail Satan" in class. Everyone was chillin' and everyone got quiet as soon as I said it. Apparently the cops got involved and talked to my parents and whatnot, but IDK. She was also the leader of Teens for Christ. Wrong place, wrong time. This happened back in 2012. I'm guessing this took place in a southern, or perhaps midwestern, state during the height of the satanic panic. Not so much while I was in school, but I hadn't walked the stage yet. It was our high school graduation ceremony, and one of the teachers gave his speech, then suddenly walked off backstage. The whole room hears the revving of an engine, and then this teacher rides out on his motorcycle across the stage and leaps off the stage, and down the center aisle and right out the door. No warning. Wasn't in the itinerary. Just a surprise from an awesome teacher. He jumped on his bike and floored the gas. I heard him yell out laters, class. Are you discount sprog? I love it. I'm pretty awesome, but don't like to brag. I write PMs. I'm sprag. We had exam training for chemistry, but the class was so small we finished early, so our teacher decided to have some fun. He made a 5-foot tower of bubbles with hydrogen gas in the science classroom and lit it on fire. There was a ball of fire that slowly rose to the ceiling. It lit a ceiling tile on fire and we almost had to use an extinguisher to put it out. Luckily the tile was fire retardant and only smoldered a bit. Now there is a black spot on the ceiling. Oh, and my teacher lost an eyebrow and part of his beard. When I talk to buddies from school we still bring it up sometimes. I loved that teacher, and he is the reason I love science so much. It's as they say, science is just messing around and taking notes of what you did. The best science teacher always has a few black ceiling tiles from when the fireball gets out of hand. The tile was fire retardant. He sold me a $1,000 compound bow for $100. The new best-selling novel, coming soon. We need to talk about you, Wilfer. I used to think I knew, but now I'm not sure. I had a science teacher who had an inflatable shark blimp that she could control from her desk with a remote. She attached a camera to the bottom of it and flew it around during tests to keep students from cheating off of each other. She was my favorite teacher. Innovative, but I would get distracted by a fish swimming through the air over my head. You think life doesn't have fish swimming through the air to distract you? She's preparing you for the world. I wouldn't pay attention and a nun threw an eraser at my head. Early 90s was a lawless place for Catholic school education. I had this at my non-Catholic school, also in the 90s. I had a wooden board eraser thrown at my head by a maths teacher for getting the wrong answer. I had a cut just below my hairline, so I had to go to the medical room and my mum yelled at me about it. So weird. I had an older professor that told a story of a teacher who would intentionally leave the chalkboard erasers coated with extra chalk and then throw them at students, causing a puff of chalk dust once they were hit. He said she was quite old and had incredible strength and aim, and also was so quick that she shocked the students every time. You are not wrong there. Just an eraser? That's extremely mild for a nun. A professor at my college held an off-campus extra CR seminar and hired 3 strippers to give lap dances to him and the students. It was for a business ethics class. He taught you well. Nothing illegal there. Shoving her hand in a student's mouth to pull out candy cane. Also ridiculing the kid whose father died just a week prior. I had a teacher have a kid spit out her chewing gum into the teacher's hand, and she held it, warm and wet, in her hands for a few minutes while telling us all off about it before throwing in the bin. My 8th grade gym coach told his football team in the locker room that he wouldn't be surprised to see me in the newspaper for killing myself or someone else. Said I looked like a school shooter and a loser. He was not fired, nothing happened to him, except the principal made him apologize. That's messed up. I'm sorry you had to deal with that BS. Hey, thanks. It's okay. I actually feel pretty embarrassed to say that several years later I still sometimes think back to these moments with regret. In a lot of ways, I never really got over stuff like this, I guess. Especially because I was bullied a lot in school and was actually suicidal at the time of him saying those things. No need to be embarrassed. That was traumatic on a few levels, friend. That is sad. He is trying to fit in with teenagers. We had a sub in my world history class for a day. Our normal teacher was sick. Definitely was not a long-term situation. This sub explained the hourglass method of writing essays and said this is how we will do things from now on. She said a bunch of other crazy things, but the other one that stood out was her explanation of how Richard Nixon and FedEx sparked the Industrial Revolution. I wish I remembered the other crazy stuff she said, but it was wild. Someone told administration, and we found out the next day that the sub had been escorted off the premise before the school day was over. She was also banned from school grounds and ever teaching in the school district again. How Richard Nixon and FedEx sparked the Industrial Revolution. I want an explanation. I wish I remembered it better, but it had to do with Nixon's policies and FedEx's organizational logistics. It was weird and made no sense. Started out when Nixon broke into Watergate and stole the Democrats' time machine. Shake her keys to hide the potential sound of her farts. We all knew. Everyone knew. Mr. B and Mrs. B were teachers who were married to each other. They met when Mr. B was his wife's teacher. There was a 4-year difference between them. During my senior year of high, Mrs. B left her husband of about 8 years for a student she had the previous year who graduated. She was in her 30s, and the student was 18. Oh, the irony. If you brought Doritos for lunch, you had to give him some, because he loved Doritos. Sometimes people would get mad, because they didn't want to share, and he'd give them detention. Eventually no one ever brought in Doritos. Massive power trip. Thorben Madsen Point math teacher. He walked in as a painter Waldo Santa Claus and August Fisher a lady, and in a kilt, and he thought he was funny, so he always made jokes. This sounds like an amazing teacher. Yeah, I had some pretty good teacher at that university. Is Santa Claus like a lobster or something? Lobsters have pincers. Punched a student in the nose during 5th grade. Teacher was a Catholic nun. I had to wipe up the blood trail from the classroom to the bathroom door. Are you sure they weren't actually a pagan wolf deity of the harvest known as Harlow the Wise Wolf, who was attempting to hide from the church, hunting her down in the last place they would expect her to be, one of their own schools, as one of their own nuns? What is this, and why does it reek of weeb? It's an anime. Very well done anime. Spice and Wolf. Highly recommend. Hey man, don't give the writer new ideas for Wolf and Parchment chapters. Headbanged to one by Metallica in front of the class. She was my sophomore English teacher and we were reading All Quiet on the Western Front. She wanted us to feel the music, to sympathize with characters who were going to war, so we closed our eyes. Halfway through, when the drums kicked in, we opened our eyes and saw our teacher, who had long black curly hair, thrashing her head back and forth. Still the most baddest thing I've ever seen a teacher do. Not in my class, but a different class in my school, had a kid with Tourette's and the substitute didn't know that. I'm sure you can figure the rest out. And that is the teacher's fault, or the sped department, or the sub for not reading the notes left by the teacher. In the same day, brought leeks to class, and began sword fighting the air with a Nerf sword. His classes were fun. Leeks, did he spin them? Told me to stop milking a broken arm caused by another student, effectively saying I was lying for attention, and I'm wearing the cast to get sympathy. Where to begin? 1. Cut off some of a girl's hair, and fed it to someone on a tortilla chip. 2. Duct taped 2 kids together. 3. Made kids wear lipstick and makeup. 4. Made a kid eat coffee grounds. 5. Pour really hot water on a kid. Is this all the same teacher? So many different moods of what the? Why was this teacher not expelled? Why was this teacher not arrested? Our art teacher killed himself in the art room closet. He wasn't found until class had started for the day. Art imitates life. How did he do it? I'm guessing hanging. Shot himself twice in the back of the head, cut off his limbs, put himself in the kiln, and turned it on. Teacher was caning a student back in the 70s on the hand. Kid grabbed the end of the cane and broke it. Teacher then thrashed the kid all over with the broken part of the cane. Later apologized and visited the kid in the sick bay. Was never charged with anything and saw out his career at the school. Was deputy principal. Had a substitute teacher choke me. I didn't know what to do, but the next day, the principal came in and talked with me about. Luckily 2 fellow students went and reported it. Geez, what happened to the teach? The real teacher was pregnant, and the substitute never came back the next day. The day of parent-teacher conference the principal was there, and my mom asked what happened to her. He said that she was fired, and lost her teaching license. My 4th grade teacher would hand out candy bars to students if they killed a fly in the classroom, and then ate it. Wow, that took an unexpected turn. My grade 7 teacher threw my chair at the door leading to the hallway and yelled at me to go to the principal's office because I forgot to do my math homework and she was already in a bad mood. A kid passed me a threatening note and the teacher made me sit with him all lunch because I was ruining her trust and our relationship. Mama Bear wasn't happy.